I'd like to call this June 19th meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order, please. Can we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Councilman Anderson.
Present.
Councilman Shelton.
Here.
Mayor Slee.
Present.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Here.
Councilman Williams. All present.
No, not either.
Oh, they're not. Williams. Okay. 4 present, 1 absent.
Thank you.
I'm here too. Now.
Okay. I'm
All right, if
rusty.
we could all rise for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
That'd be silly on TV.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda, Mr. Shipley?
No changes.
No changes. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Seeing none, all vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Brings us to our old business portion of the meeting. Item 2, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held May the 15th, 2008 and June the 5th, 2008. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing no discussion, all vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 3, consider on second and final reading ordinance 080610, amending Title 18, Chapters 1 and 2 of the Cookeville Municipal Code relative to water sewer rate increase. Sponsor, Mr. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, we're presenting this budget for your consideration to raise the water, wastewater rates a small percentage. We went over a lot of this the last time, and I can go over it again, or I can just take any questions you might have. Nothing's changed since the first reading.
No changes since first reading. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move approval. Second.
We have our motion and second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Item 4, hold a public hearing and consider on second and final reading ordinance 080607, providing a tax levy for the 2008-2009 fiscal year. Sponsor, Mr. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, since first reading, there's been no changes to this ordinance. It still includes an 8-cent property tax increase, raising the tax from 79 cents to 87 cents, broken down with 63 going to the general fund, 4 to our economic development, 1 to the quality of life fund, and then 19 cents to our debt service fund. And I'd recommend your approval.
Do we have a motion and second?
So moved.
We have our motion and our second. Any discussion by the council? Comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
3 yes votes, 1 no,
Thank you,
motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Item 5, hold a public hearing and consider on second and final reading ordinance 080608, authorizing appropriations for financial aid to public service, nonprofit, and charitable organizations for the 2008-2009 fiscal year. Sponsor, Mr. Mike Davidson.
Again, this ordinance has not changed since first reading. It appropriates $585,478 for nonprofits, and I'd recommend your approval.
Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any discussion by the council? I don't see the, I know there were several that were denied. Any idea on the total figure of how many we denied?
Right there are all those that have the requests that were made and the amounts that were denied. Again, the library was $24,742 increase. We've denied that one. $50,000 from the chamber for the Highlands Initiative, but there's the list there. I don't have that total. Not sure what that amount is off the top of my head either.
Okay. Well, it's fortunate that we're able to help some of these organizations. It obviously affects a lot of the people in the city, but unfortunate that those were unfunded, and maybe if people get out and shop locally, we'll have enough sales tax revenue we can fund those next year. Any other comments by the council? Comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Item 6, hold a public hearing, consider on second and final reading, ordinance 080609, making appropriations for the various funds, departments, and agencies of the City of Cookeville, Tennessee for the 2008-2009 fiscal year, sponsored Mr. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council, again, this ordinance for the appropriations for all the departments, there's been no changes since first reading. Just to point out a couple of things regarding the general fund, it is a $20,528,000 estimated revenue with total expenditures and transfers of $20,271,000. Estimated surplus for the general fund of $256,000. And this also does include, just as a reminder, transferring some solid waste expenses over to our solid waste fund. And we would be collecting an apartment complex fee for sanitation services, and that's all in the solid waste fund. Citywide, it's a total budget of $375 million. That includes the hospital, and I'd recommend your approval.
Do we have a motion second to approve?
Move approval. Second.
We have our motion second. Any discussion by the council? Comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
3 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
Thank you.
Brings us to our consent agenda. We have 2 items. Item 7 is awarding bids for transformers for the Cookeville Electric Department. Item 8 is to consider awarding bids for the filter media for the Water Quality Control Department. Do we have a motion and second to approve consent agenda?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Brings us to the new business portion. Item 9, consider resolution 080614 relative to authorizing participation in the Tennessee Municipal League's Risk Management Pool Safety Partners Loss Control Matching Grant Program. Sponsor, Ms. Kathy Andrews.
Mayor and City Council, the city is applying for a $2,000 grant funded by the TML Safety Grant Program. Funds will be used to purchase a couple of tasers for the police department. We've been very successful in the past with this grant. We are 6 out of 6 for a total of $12,000. I recommend your approval for this, please.
Thank you. Do we have a motion second?
So moved.
Second.
Have our motion and our second. Any discussion by the council? I just have to say, I understand these to be very effective tools. I don't know if the chief wants to speak to that, but I think we're having a lot less injury to our officers, are we not?
Yeah, they've been very successful, and our officers have been very judicious about the use of them, and we're doing a real good job tracking when they are used. We've had them in service long enough now where some of them are actually tearing up. We're sending some back, getting them repaired, so we can always use them.
Does each officer have one?
No, we'd like for that to be the case, but all the officers on the SWAT team have them, and then we have some in-house that get handed out at each shift. So everybody working that particular shift does have one.
Somebody on shift.
And I believe Mr. Birch and Ms. Shipley could either one speak to the reduction in loss we've had as far as injuries to our officers and to defendants as well.
Right. Very good. Any further comments by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Item 10, consider approval of agreement with Cannon & Cannon Incorporated for design of West Cemetery Road extension to South Jefferson Avenue. Sponsor, Mr. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, we solicited proposals to design the West Cemetery Road extension between Bunker Hill Road and South Jefferson. We chose Cannon & Cannon. They are the same firm that's designing the school right to the south of this road. And I would recommend your approval.
Do we have a motion second to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
We have our motion second. Any discussion by the council?
Well, I understand this is not only just for convenience of school traffic. It will be a good connector road between these, the South Willow and or South Jefferson and.
Yes, we've had it on our road plan for a while, so it will help traffic as well.
So this will be another east-west corridor for people, say from Willow Avenue over to Jefferson. They won't have to get on the interstate or...
That's correct.
Right. And will it be signaled, I'm assuming, there at Jefferson?
Yes, it will be.
Any further comments? Comment from the audience? If you could, sir, if you could come to the lectern and identify yourself, please.
Hi, I live on Monticello Circle, which borders the new school that's going to go up.
What's your name, sir?
Charles Becker.
All right.
And I was just curious as how close that road will be to my property, because the back of my house is like 15 to 20 feet from the edge. Will there be any kind of a, tree line or anything like that?
The plan is to build an earth berm along the north side of the property between the road and the subdivision there, and also plant trees on it. So there should be
Trees between that? Okay.
trees and an earth berm as well. So there should be a physical barrier between the road and your property.
So the road is basically goes straight east from where the West Cemetery comes out there.
There'll be a little curve into it, but basically it'll hug the north property line.
Okay, that sounds good.
And at what point, Greg, could Mr. Becker maybe see when will we have plans or
After we do the preliminary design, we should have a public meeting to let everybody that's in the neighborhood that's concerned about it look at it and see what we've got planned and voice any concerns they have, like we do on any other road we build.
Just, be looking for that maybe, and you can always contact the city and
We usually mail out notices and do the reverse 911 for that, so they should have several ways to be notified.
Okay.
Mr. Becker, if you want to just leave me a phone number, we'll make sure we contact you when those plans are ready. It'll be several months, I'd say, before they're ready. And Greg, you said that the road would hug the property line. Actually, it's going to go a little south of the property line so that we can have that buffer area.
Well, the right-of-way will hug the property line. The road will be on the south side of the right-of-way.
Yeah.
All right, very good. And thank you for coming, Mr. Becker, and bringing your comments. Any further discussion from the audience? Comments from the council? Seeing none, I'll vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Item 11, consider approval of contract with Stamps Design Group relative to Cookeville Drama Center repairs. Sponsor, Mr. Rick Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you know, we've had some settling issues and structural issues at the Drama Center that we need to address, and we are recommending to enter an agreement with Stamps Design Group to do the design for the repairs that need to be done at the Drama Center. And I would recommend your approval.
Do we have a motion?
To answer any questions?
Do we have a motion and second to approve?
Move approval. Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any discussion by the council?
Is this, I guess, the plan will be how they're going to make that structurally more sound, but is there going to be a decorative something to that as well, or is it just, is there going to be more steps or less steps, or how?
What we're addressing is the actual settling of the plaza area, right, and the front part of the lobby. The plan is to expand the lobby a little bit while we're doing this and redo the entire plaza area from the front of the building down to the street.
Okay. And that'll come back in a separate bid as far as the actual construction?
Yes. The construction.
We budgeted that, didn't we, on a bond?
Yes. Bond issue. Yes, sir.
All right. Good.
Do you think the water has anything to do with the problem that has developed?
We suspect that there is a water line that runs under that into the fountain area that may be part of the problem with the settling.
Is the plan to keep, do you know if they plan to keep the fountain?
Yes, the desire is to keep the fountain if possible, yes.
Okay. Very good. Any further questions by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no further questions, I'll vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Item 12, consider approval of an agreement covering Cookeville Electric Department's participation in the Demand Generation Partners Pilot Program. Sponsor, Mr. Tony Peak.
Mayor and Council, you might remember, I think I spoke to you at the last meeting about the possibility of Tennessee Tech installing some solar arrays on campus. This proposed agreement, as the mayor mentioned, just covers our participation in TVA's pilot program. Of course, they're desiring, through their Green Power Switch program, to purchase as much renewable type energy as they can. This agreement just puts the mechanism in place for Tennessee Tech or others to come at a later time and sign a participation agreement to do these type things. Be very similar to the Generations Partner Agreement that you approved for Mr. Grogan to install solar panels at his home. This is just an agreement for a larger customer. Tennessee Tech is looking at installing 14 kW. Richards was probably in the neighborhood of 1 to 2 kW. I might have mentioned before, MTSU has installed somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 11. Of course, obviously, want Tech to do more than MTSU, so that's why we're looking at 14 kW there.
Very good.
This will be probably a 10-year agreement with TVA, and TVA will agree to pay Tennessee Tech 20 cents per kilowatt hour for kilowatt hours that they generate.
Very good, very good.
Sounds good.
Bring that to the council in the form of a motion if I can get a second.
Second.
I have a motion or a second. Any discussion by the council? I'd just like to applaud you, Mr. Peak, for helping work with Tech and these other individuals on doing these kinds of things. I certainly hope that as there's a growing demand for technical people to do these kinds of projects, that they have students from Tennessee Tech who are trained in these things, and hopefully our vocational school here, they can pick up on these things too and provide new jobs for the future and hire those people from the Cookeville area.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and if I may, I think you're going to see a lot more of these type things coming in the very near future, because as I mentioned to you once before, TVA is committed to trying to reduce their load by 14 megawatts. To give you an idea of how much that is, Cookeville's load is around 100 megawatts, and they're looking at 100 megawatts, and they're looking at 1,400 reduction in the next 4 years through these type programs. I know I'd been talking to Gene in the last day or two about some of the things that TVA is doing, one of those being that home energy audit, that if folks would, that have computer availability, would just go to energyright.com. There is a self-audit that you can do on your home. You will receive in 6 weeks a packet of energy-saving type stuff, and I promised Gene tonight that I'd get each of you one of those packets real soon. So, you're just going to see a rash of these type things in an attempt to achieve that 1,400 megawatts in 4-year period.
Right.
And I want to reiterate what the mayor said. I appreciate the city of Cookeville, the electric department, looking, and all the departments looking towards ways that we can be a little bit more green and try to conserve energy. And also I'd love to support somebody finding a wonderful energy source that we could find it here in Cookeville and just get on the map for good.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Any further comments? I don't believe we've voted on that. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Item 13, consider awarding chemical bids for the Water Quality Control Department. Sponsor, Mr. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and Council, we recently opened our annual chemical bids, and I wanted to, instead of putting this on the consent agenda, I wanted to bring it to your attention. One thing we've seen is some price increases over the last little bit, especially this past year. And what we did last year was we bid out 6 months and a year to see if we could get some price breaks, and we did get some price advantages. One thing we did see is the sodium hydroxide has went up tremendously, which is going to basically add about $220,000 to our operating at the water plant next year, if we use the same amount that we did last year. Last year was a record year, and it's a byproduct of chlorine production and chlorine use in PVC materials, and that market going down, not a lot of chlorine being made. The byproduct And so we're in the process of trying to figure out what else can we do, how can we cut that back. So, but the purpose of me bringing this to your attention now is to get the motion to award with the contingency that if these low bidders can't meet and fulfill their obligations, that we be allowed to go and get more product from the second bidders on down the line until we can get it. We're starting to see stuff like that happen in this past year.
Can we get a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Do you have the financial resources to go ahead and buy what you think would be a year's worth of this one that's going up so much?
What we've asked for is prices locked in for a year. We asked for prices locked in for 6 months and prices locked in for a year. The locked in 12-month price is cheaper than the 6 month. We wanted to see some of the guys' 6 month price was cheaper than the 12-month. We thought that there might be people's going to try to protect themselves with fuel and everything, so we cut it to 6 months and let's see. And some of it did, and some of it didn't.
I was actually out on the lake this morning, and it's just amazing at how much growth, residential growth, there is around the area where I was. Is that going to, as that continues to happen, is it going to affect our water quality and then make us have to use more chemicals? And like the level of the lake being extremely low, is that adding to our cost of treatment?
Oh, yeah. It's adding, it does affect the quality of the water.
It does or doesn't?
It does. Right now it does. It has some effect on the quality because it's not, they're leaving it at one level and they're not letting it, if they get water in, they're not letting it stay in long, they're getting it right back out. And so that does have some effect on the quality, which has an effect on the treatment. Let's see, the other question you asked was about the quality of the water as things build up. You have as things build up and the natural landscape goes away, you have things that's going to start running into the reservoir, which will have an impact on treatment.
Thinking lots of septic tanks is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And they're keeping this low level of the water because of the dam repair? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's where they thought it would be. It's higher than what they said they were going to put it at. They were going to try to keep it around 630, and it's been around 632, which is good. It just causes us to, the lower it gets, the more we have to pump because of our pump capacity. Once our intake project this winter gets finished, that won't be as much issue, but the pump, the way they were designed originally, they pump less the lower the lake level goes, so you have to pump more and more right now.
And the membranes, when they get set up, we worn those things out, but when they get set up, is that going to help us with our water quality? Will it like settle this and then?
No.
Not really.
It'll just help us with our quantity.
Just the quantity, okay.
Yes, and hopefully, the WNO's been working like gangbusters, been doing a great job. You know, they look like they're on schedule for the middle of July for that thing to be put in operation, and we would be glad for the council to take a trip down if we get that working. Alma wants to get the first class.
That's it. Right out of the membrane.
All right, any further comments from the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
4 yes votes, motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. That brings us to our hearing of citizens and/or delegations portion of our meeting. At this time, we invite you to come to the city council meetings, first and third Thursdays of the month. We had a few empty seats tonight, and plenty of time to speak at the lectern for up to 3 minutes if you have any ideas or comments. And also open up the floor to the council as well, if you have anything.
I'd mention that this Saturday is the 7th Annual Soapbox Derby, sponsored by the Police Athletic League and our Department of Leisure Services, and it's a fantastic event. I think there's almost over 100 kids participating in it this year, and having been a father that's been through that for several years, it's a fantastic event, very worthwhile, not only for the participating kids and parents, but for the city too. It's a very good outreach. So appreciate both those departments handling that, and all the others. I know there's a lot of other city departments that help with that. As we're always blessed with any of our events in the city, all the department heads and the departments really help with those. So encourage everyone to go out and see that.
That is a good event. We also have up on the square on Sunday, there will be a bicycle race, the Criterion, that brings people in from all over the state to be racing, and it's a pretty interesting spectator sport. If you need to take a break from something, you can run out and take a look at that real fast. It's a really neat race, and we do have people coming from all over the state and the southeast, so I encourage you to get out and take a look at that as well. Any further comments by the council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Greg.